Hi there. I was reading Old Testament text yesterday because I was wondering whether it's possible to interpret God as being the sun, and then you would have the earth, the moon and the sun, or something like the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son and the Holy Spirit. I'm not sure. I was just looking into the text because of course it's written in a time where the Jews were actually escaping from Egypt, and Egypt was worshipping the sun like nothing else, like Amon-Ra and all that stuff. So I was reading those Old Testament texts and the Ten Commandments, and actually the Ten Commandments are a number of a large number of rules that were set forth to Moses when he was on that mountain. But I was a little bit disappointed because it was not like he was in a desert and he was scorched by the sun and then he came up with those rules, because then of course analogy or the interpretation as a sun inspired law book would be more justified. But actually it sounds like he was on a volcano or something like that. There were dark clouds and everybody was scared of the thunder, and so it was not a sunny day that he spoke to God on the mountain. That stuff. But there are quite funny rules, for instance, and also rules that tell you something about how temples should be built. He says, of course, the Lord said to Jesus or to Moses, "Make an altar of earth for me, and if you make an altar of stones for me, do not build it with dressed stones, like smooth and carved, for you will defile it if you use a tool on it." So basically you can only do it with earth or with natural materials that you have not been working on. And then he says, "And do not go up to my altar on steps, or your private parts may be exposed." And of course, if God hates anything, it's people exposing their private parts right next to his altar. I guess that's a fair thing to warn against, but it's also quite observant and basically prudent, and how would you call that? Oh, of course God is omnipotent, so he will know everything. He will also know when you show your private parts when you're in front of his altar. Anyway, I think that's funny. I'm quite tired, so I'm not really laughing very hard. But the thing that struck me was two. You shall not give false testimony against your neighbor, which basically, and it comes back later again, where you, let's say, where it's all basically 10 commandments are thou shalt not steal, etc. But it's all also about, if I hit somebody and I break his nose, but he's still walking, should I be punished or not? And the law is that if he walks after 3 days, then it's fine. But if I strike a servant and I kill it, or her, him or her, then should I be punished? Well, maybe yes, maybe no. And if I have a female servant and I get children, and when should I let them free, or should I ever let them free? It's like there's one rule that says that if you're a slave, but after the master tells the slave that he can go, but the slave says I don't want to go, then he's a slave for life. He basically gets an earring or something like that, and that shows that he's so he's basically scared to run away, doesn't know how to work in the real world. He will be a slave forever. So, but there's a rule. One of the 10 commandments is a rule against smearing, against giving false testimony, which is happening all the time today. All the time, everybody's doing it, and I guess amongst those people that are doing it all the time today, in the media, just talking lies, are lots of people that pretend to be followers of these rules, and they are not. Too bad. And another is, you shall not covet your neighbor's house, you shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his male or female servant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. Basically, that means that if you broadcast something, pretending that it owns to somebody, so like we see a guy driving a Mercedes-Benz in an advertisement, that thing, that process, is basically designed to inspire in us something which the Old Testament considers a sinful. It is a little bit as if I'm discovering sinfulness and the Bible. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm surprised about is that there's so many people that pretend to follow these rules that do exactly that. Actually, a lot of them, and that they're still very, let's say, proud about being one of those Old Testament people. And so this sounds anti-Semitic maybe, but that's not the way it's intended. It's simply, I'm just noticing a gross incongruence in basically saying, well, we follow these rules and we're followers of Moses, and we're very proud of it, and this is our identity, and we're not doing it at all. Actually, quite the opposite usually. I got somebody sent me a video, a link, which was about all the rules that the Jews have between themselves and other people. Well, I watched it and I don't really like it, because it does not help anybody to build a generalization, an image about the people, and then trying to pile hate upon hate. I got another video by somebody that was about let's say the whole mix of the Illuminati and the let's say the my God, man, you know, if you want to have lots of crap in your head, just, you know, make up your own crap. It doesn't function. It doesn't work for anybody to have a head filled of suspicions. It does work if you demand to be able to investigate lots of stuff, which pretends to be innocent. And if you have a suspicion that it's not innocent, that it's basically fraudulent or malicious, then you should have every right to investigate it, or actually ask somebody else to do it, the police or something like that. You know, and openness, transparency, that's what's needed. Involvement of people. People should not be always hiding behind authorities, or let's say, and they're basically forced to do that. It's like you just, the one that tries to be a vigilante, you brand him a terrorist, you basically beat the shit out of him, and everybody else will be hiding behind your back, so that the enemy can approach you with you have the gun. Basically, it's all intimidation. It's all a form of intimidation, which basically inspires stupidity and dumb behavior. And of course, you know, it gets to the point where you have to follow the stupidest in order to stay safe. I'm sometimes truly, and I'll be very honest, I'm terrified of some people that open their mouth and say something. I'm basically terrified. What comes out of it? How much time is it going to waste? What is it going to misdirect people towards? How is it going to make something important that is completely unimportant? That's something that's very deeply ingrained, and I was never told that that some people are less than others or something like that, or I'm of a better class or whatever. That never happened. But it's simply my desire to be useful, which I'm probably usually am not. I'll be modest about that. But resists having to be exposed to unnecessarily, of course, having to be exposed to nonsense. I hate it. To vanity, to somebody that basically tries to get attention by opening his mouth and then suggests and keeps like a guy like Lord Monckton, who basically sits in front of you if you're a climate activist and tries to convince you that there's nothing going on. And you have to realize that that guy is wasting his life talking about something that is not true in order to make you waste your life. So basically it's a kind of strangulation, it's a kind of assassination that's going on. And it's retarded because it's also immoral. Basically, it's fundamentally immoral. It's not Old Testament or New Testament or whatever testament immoral. It kills. It kills in immense amounts of numbers. to be, for instance, a climate skeptic. Just, if you are a climate skeptic, stop right now. You can make a cost analysis. I'm a climate skeptic, I don't make any money for that special reason, so let's stop being a climate skeptic, and I won't make any money for that same reason. See, there's not a cost-benefit analysis associated with it. It's just somebody told you to be a climate skeptic and you thought it was cool. Well, it's much cooler, literally, to be a climate activist. That's basically the coolest thing you can be. Literally, eventually, on average, globally. But anyway, I was reading the Old Testament, and so Old Testament adherents are a bunch of hypocrites if they accuse other people of stuff that is not really true, that can be exposed as a lie. So and sadly, I do not find too much evidence that the God of the Old Testament is actually the Son, which is a pity. It's if you read it, just there's a number of rules and regulations and directives that are given that are easy to remember, that do have a beneficiary effect on the cohabitation of people. It also shows that there is slaves in the Jewish Old Testament community, and plenty of them. Everybody has slaves. And so slavery is a very old tradition on the world. I already knew this. And say, to go back to the anti-Semitic videos, I did read the Old Testament completely a long time ago, and I do remember that there were special rules about the meat, that if the meat is from a carcass or something, you cannot eat it if you're a Jew, but you can give it to strangers. And there's many rules like that. So differential behavior towards yourself and towards people that are non-Jews. And some videos about it are very explicit, but I'm not going to spend time trying to figure out whether that's true or not. And even if it's true, then still, if you simply have Roman law, something like that in your country, and you make sure that the judges that are applying that law are sound, are fair, you don't allow anybody to be corrupt or super right-wing or something like that as a judge, you cannot be political as a judge, then you're probably fine with a whole country full of people that adhere to this Old Testament, or pretend to do that. Anyway, this is a little bit of a random video. I do advise people to look into these things, if only because you can find out some funny stuff about people eating their own children and stuff like that. Things that used to happen when people were much more primitive than we are right now. And let's hope that we are not going to be endangered simply because a lot of people that pretend to be adhering those 10 commandments want us to fight or be in a war or believe something. Because we probably, if we would believe them, we would probably believe them because they were breaking those laws and they were not worth being listened to in the identity that they're pretending to have. So this is very convoluted thing. But if a Zionist Jew is smearing the other people in order to protect his Zionism, he is the biggest hypocrite on the planet, because his religion tells him that he cannot smear other people.